There is one that I said no to that turned out to be a massive show. That was Modern Family. They were so cool, but it came at a time where it was between that and Ballers. So I made that choice. I never regretted it.
Which part was it?
It was the dad. Ty Burrell and I talked about this afterwards. Nobody likes to know that other people were going out for these things as well, but I always try and keep that in mind when I'm in a show. Like, you're not necessarily everybody's first choice for this, so make yourself their first choice.
Hello and welcome to Obsessed, the podcast. I'm Matt Wilstein from The Daily Beast, and today on the show, I am thrilled to be joined by an actor and comedian who you may know from The Daily Show, Children's Hospital, and Hot Tub Time Machine. But you have never seen him deliver a performance like the one he does in the new AMC drama series, The Audacity, which, if it were up to me, would earn him his 5th Emmy Award. Rob Corddry, welcome to Obsessed, the podcast.
Thank you. I am just as thrilled to be here, and that was a very kind introduction.
Well, I did really love this performance of yours in The Audacity, which I have to say, I'm not sure this show has gotten as much attention as it deserves. I think people love it, but I'm hoping that more people are able to check it out because it's so good and it's a very different type of role than we've seen you in before. So I'm curious, how did this role of a war veteran trying to get Silicon Valley billionaires to help vets come to you?
Well, first of all, in terms of people seeing it and word of mouth spreading, you and my wife feel the same way.
She's like, "What's going on?"
She's beside herself. Yeah, no, it's of course one of those things that it's I have enough faith in the show that I think the word of mouth. There's so many shows out that word of mouth it becomes a little. It's like syrupy. And so it'll get there, because it's such a good show. But anyway, how did this happen was your real question.
Yes.
Um, well, it kinda happened in the very traditional way. I got the sides and had an audition. I actually my audition was more of a meeting with Jonathan, Glatzer, the creator at first, and we hit it off famously, and I just had one of those rare experiences where you leave a meeting thinking like, "Oh, this is gonna be something. I know I can do this." And I I I think unless he's a great liar, which there's a lot of good liars out there, he thinks I can too. So then we had an audition, and it was just he and I, and that was that.
Yeah, I mean, you said you thought you had it in you, and that was sort of my next question is, how did you know that you could do this? Because, I think, as I said, we know you mostly from comedy, although I do know you started out kind of doing more dramatic stuff, Shakespeare and everything early on. Were you intimidated by this much more serious role, or did you just think, I'm ready for this?
Oh my gosh, I'm not intimidated by this kind of thing in the least. I actually feel like drama uh, is a lot easier than comedy. And yeah, Zach Galifianakis and I would talk about this on set all the time, like kind of whisper to each other, like, "Are we getting away with something here? Like, are we fooling This is going well." Yeah, I just feel like also when you get older, I think the showbiz machine itself sort of starts thinking of you as in a different way, like, you get some gray hair and you assume more gravitas. I don't know. But, yeah, I did start out doing drama. I mean, I went to theater school. I was an actor, and I fancied myself a very important dramatic actor for a long time and sort of stumbled into comedy, thank God.
Well, I want to get to some of your comedy work in a little bit, but to stay on The Audacity a little bit longer, this show is such a scathing takedown of the tech industry. Like, I don't know if you watched Silicon Valley, but that was sort of a satire of, an HBO of tech. And there was a lot of sort of, negative stuff about the industry and that. But this is like, I feel like a whole other level. So I'm curious, did it give you new insight into just the base depravity of our tech oligarchs and this industry that has taken over so much of the world at this point. Because your character really is an antagonist to them and works against them, but ultimately to no avail.
but also needs them, and that's his whole MO is that he is sort of a fish out of water coming from Washington, DC to try and get money from these guys that who have the deepest pockets in the world, and his this is his last shot, and he's coming up empty. But, I, it's so funny. We've been told for the longest time, and we believed that, like, these guys are gonna save our lives. These guys are gonna change everything, and I think it was probably around the time after Steve Jobs died that the sort of gloss wore off it a little bit, and they started to behave badly, and we started to raise our eyebrows and started to realize that, you know, it's really the bottom dollar and not, you know, do no harm, above all else. So, I, basically all the stuff that I was all the stuff that's in the Audacity, I was reminded of, because you have to be constantly reminded that, like, your privacy is something that every day we are freely giving away without a thought. And, if I've learned one thing, I now take the time every website I go to customize my cookies.
Yeah, deny those cookies. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, essential only. And if I can just say all of them gone, good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people sort of think like, well, I have nothing to hide, so what's the big deal about my privacy and yeah, this show, and I think it does make you think differently about some of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, they say that, right? They say that. I say that. My wife says it. We all say that, because I don't have anything to hide. But they're not looking for that. They're not, like, trying to catch you at anything. They're not spying on you. They are sifting through your data in a way that, um and getting to know us in a way that we don't know ourselves, um and so then somebody will say, "Well, I have nothing to hide," and then in the next breath say, "My Alexa is listening to me, I swear to God," and it's not listening to you. It's way more insidious than that.
Yeah, I think if it started when Steve Jobs died, this realization, I think it really culminated when all of the tech oligarchs lined up behind Trump at the inauguration, and kind of made their allegiances known. So, what did you make of that?
Yeah, things were already pretty cemented for me at that point. I mean, and that was no surprise, and the whole Doge period of our, of this term was I mean, because in one breath, you're like, "Oh, that's a pretty good idea, I guess, make it more efficient," but, like, democracy works slowly, and that's kind of the way it needs to work, and it's working very fast right now.
So this is a spoiler alert for anyone who has not finished the first season of The Audacity. So feel free to skip ahead a couple minutes if you want to watch it and you haven't yet. But maybe I'll just say that your character will not be returning for a potential season two of this show. So how did you sort of feel about the end of the show and where this guy ended up?
They show a gun in episode 1, and I'm a writer, like, I've written 7 seasons of television, like, I know what that means, and yet I I didn't even, I never even assumed somebody was gonna die, and let alone who it was gonna be, and it was around, episode 6, I think we were shooting, and I got back to my trailer, and Jonathan was waiting outside with a look on his face, and I was like, "Well, I can't be fired this late into the game. What's going on here?" And we had a talk, and, like, the guy, he's such a sweetheart. He's crying, telling me that I'm gonna die, and I'm finding myself comforting him, um, because I understand how heartbreaking it is to kill off any character that you've created, but, you know, when I was alone and able to really think about it, I was heartbroken. It was really I really, really enjoyed this show, and I wanted to be part of it forever, and not for the reasons that I usually wanna be part of a show forever, just because I love money. I love it. Love money. No, I just wanted to do this. I wanted to do it over and over and over.
Do you feel inspired to do more work like this, more dramatic work or just more deeper characters like this?
Listen, I'll I'll give you whatever you want. What do you want? What do you got? I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm like, I don't really think there's a lot of difference between the 2, at least in the way that I prepare. I prepared just as much for Hot Tub Time Machine as I did for the Audacity. My character biography was perhaps a little longer this time around, but it was pretty long, for a for Hot Tub, given that it's a ridiculous comedy movie. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just approach it the same way. I'll do anything, either way.
So, speaking of Hot Tub Time Machine, you did a little time traveling not too long ago from the past, from 2005 to the present on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, which I loved that bit. And it was really fun seeing you back on that show with John. How surreal was that to do that bit and now have John back at the desk after being gone for so long? And you're doing a correspondent piece after I don't even know how many years it'd been at that point.
It was so good. I love that man. I'm so glad he's back, and I'm so glad he's just doing it once a week. Like, good for him, you know? I really felt like he thought he was needed, and he is. Anyway, it was wild because, over the last, I don't even know how long Trevor was on, 10 years or so, I was on, but as a guest, on the couch, and that was cool. That was surreal in itself, but, like, Trevor didn't wanna do bits with old correspondents because, well, understandably so. He This was his show now, and he wanted to make it that, and I totally understood, but I missed it. I definitely missed it, and, with John being back, I was so excited to finally get the call, and, like, oh my god, I had a blast, and it's so different, of course. I just realized now how much money we didn't have shooting that show back then. Like, there's a costume department with costumes in it. We had nothing. We had to buy our own suits. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, you started on that show all the way back, I think in 2002. What are your memories from auditioning? Because you mentioned, not knowing how to audition. I don't know how you felt about it by that point, but what was the experience of going in and auditioning to be on The Daily Show?
Yeah, well, that, like, sort of crash course I put myself on, after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of auditions that I knew I wouldn't get, so I wasn't feeling the pressure as I auditioned. I was pretty good at auditioning by then, and, I I, The Daily Show was one of those things, and the Audacity was it's sort of hinted at that earlier, that when I said I can do this, I I had been a huge fan of The Daily Show, and, I used to watch it on my lunch break at the Jekyll and Hyde Club in New York. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like a spooky themed restaurant with terrible food. And, I was Dreadworthy, the wisecracking butler, and I used to watch The Daily Show, and I knew I could do that. And I just thought if I put enough work into this prep, uh, I will get this. And I just had, an abundance of confidence, but also, like, I put my nose to the grindstone, and I would, like, take the script for the audition and tape it on the wall ahead of me, so it sort of, um mimicked as much as I could, the way it would be in the studio and, with a teleprompter, and I would do it, and I would it was and to actually it's actually an easy audition, The Daily Show, at least it was. I mean, when we got in there, you're sitting at the desk with John, and he's like he and Larry David, in my experience, are the easiest people to make laugh and the most satisfying. Like, when you get a laugh out of one of those guys, you're like, "Oh my god," like, that is just you have enough air for the next year, and, he's very generous. He was very, very generous.
You were there at this time where I feel like there were these twin tracks, for young comedians in New York. You were either trying to get on The Daily Show or trying to get on SNL or both. Did you end up having an SNL audition experience as well?
I didn't. I at the UCB, yes, exactly what you said, like, the Daily Show hadn't become what it became around when the years, that Ed and I were on it, you know?
Yeah, Ed Helms.
Yeah, yeah, Steve Carell had just left it, but so it was just starting to become what it became, and I think, like, we can thank George Bush and the war like, pushing it, over the over the edge, but,
Mm.
so we would have showcases at the UCB for, SNL. The Daily Show didn't do it at that point. When I was on the show, The Daily Show started going to UCB, but, they would come every once in a while and do a showcase, and then they would say, "Yeah, we wanna see these groups come back. We wanna see them again." And then we just did one night with all the groups that had been chosen, and Lorne actually came. At least that's what I heard, and I swear to God, and now people will tell me this is I'm making this up or I'm just imagining it and making it so in my head. I heard Lorne laugh at one of our sketches. And I was like, "Oh, that's enough," because he's the hardest laugh in show business.
Yeah, if Larry David's the easiest.
Yes, he's the, other side of the Larry David scale, and, I was just like, "Oh, well, that's good enough. That's good enough." I mean, I don't I'm so glad that it sounds weird because I loved SNL my whole life, I still do, and I was that was not a show I thought I could do like I thought I could do The Daily Show, you know? It I knew I could do it, but it was very intimidating, the hours and the live aspect of it, which on one hand was fun, on the other hand, you're dealing with cue cards and you can't memorize anything, and I'm a big memorizer, and, it would just be a real shift in the way I think about all of this, so it's all for the best. Um, I would have done it in a second.
Yeah. I think people do talk about SNL as this incredibly stressful environment and, it's cutthroat and competitive. Did The Daily Show have elements of that for you, or was it more sort of we're all in this together and trying to make a great show, or are you competing with with Stephen Colbert and Samantha Bee and John Oliver to get your bits on the air, or how does that work?
Well, I wasn't. I'm like the least competitive person in history. My wife's like, "You should be more competitive." It might be helpful. Like, that's why I don't play sports. I never really played sports because I don't like it when other people lose and I win. I was on Top Gear for 2 years. We did 2 seasons of Top Gear. I was one of the hosts, and whenever I would win a race, I felt bad because the other 2 cared so much. Um, and luckily, I didn't win a lot of races, but, so no, it was not. It really wasn't, at least for me, at least for the guys I was working with Ed, I'm sure it wasn't, and I know I mean, you'd be an idiot to compete with Stephen Colbert. No, what you do is you copy Stephen Colbert.
That's the key.
Yeah, you do what he does, and then, you, eventually, it becomes your own thing.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been, following everything that's happened with him over the past year, and his show just ended. And what did you make of all of that, and sort of how he handled it? And then what do you think he's gonna do next?
I was really, it really kind of upset me. I, I think, of course, he's such a a he's one of the people that he's one of the people in my life that I consider sort of a role model that I sort of look up to, and he, of course, he's a gentleman, and he handled it like a gentleman, um, and it made his jokes funnier until the day he left, and, I love that guy, and I have no doubt that, we have not seen the last of Stephen Colbert. I think, once Conan was off his show, he's a mogul now. He's doing everything and because he loves doing it and Steven does too. So that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see more of like perhaps the, Team Coco model. I don't know.
Was it during the Daily Show that you got your first big movie, which was Old School?
No, Old School was before The Daily Show.
Oh, wow, before the Daily Show.
Yeah, it's funny. I knew the writer from UCB, Scott Armstrong, and Todd Phillips was the director, and I had just done a series of, like, 6, um, God, what was auto parts commercials with him, so it helped that I knew the 2 guys in charge, and, I got that part, and, I was told up front there's not gonna be a lot of lines, and what we do give you will be cut when that was true. But, it was so good, and then we went back a couple months later to do reshoots. In between shooting and the reshoots, I had booked The Daily Show, and I was on maybe for a couple months, and I remember Eddie Pepitone, who was just one of the, older pledges in Old School, would always he's like, "Oh, big Rob is big time now." The Daily Show, you know?
Did you film a lot of stuff for Old School that didn't make it in, that they did cut out?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and as a matter of fact, my friend Scott would come up to me after a scene that I had lines in, and he'd say, "It was really good, man, it's totally gonna get cut." I was like, "Why did we shoot it?" Like, I didn't understand enough about the process and the way Hollywood works, and I was like, "What? I don't understand what's going on." We were shot that on film. Like, you wasted a lot of film. We spent all morning doing that kinda not funny bit, I admit.
I think one of the things that people really knew you from after The Daily Show was Ballers on HBO, which I don't know if you're aware is Elizabeth Warren's favorite show, but she likes to talk about that all the time.
That's yes, that's right. We've spoken about it.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Um, I was curious, just from that experience, do you have any memories that stand out maybe about, your interactions with The Rock, who just seems like a, endlessly fascinating character?
Yeah, man, he's just a good guy, you know? He's he's a really he's a really good guy. He's everything you want him to be, you know? I but I did have, like I had these I got nervous before shooting the first episode, like, telling my wife, "What if he, like, invites me to go work out with him or something?" I'd feel really, like, intimidated by that, and she was like, "Oh, Rob, yeah, we'll deal with it when it happens, okay?" And, of course, he doesn't wanna work out with me, but we had a very good working relationship and, just a great guy to work with. Funny, he's everything you want him to be.
Yeah, and I'm shocked he didn't see you and say, "This is my new gym partner."
I mean, it's so funny. If he ever heard me say that, he would howl laughing because he's probably like, "I think of you as the kind of overweight bald guy because I had a couple pounds on me back then, and, why would you be you 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 don't belong in the gym."
Is there something, surprising from your very long resume that people come up to you and ask you about or wanna talk to you about and that's sort of unexpected or that you are surprised people care about?
Well, I get a lot. I was only on 1 episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Yeah.
right?
But that's all it takes on that show. I mean, that's
But I
yeah.
get it a lot. Like, I was in New York once, and I was walking in a door, and this cab screeched to a halt, behind me, and I turned around, and the cabbie, opened his window, and he was this, Indian guy, and he said, pervert," 'cause and then he screamed away. I was, I get a lot of that.
For anyone who hasn't seen the episode, you play
Convicted sex offender. Yes. But, they never specify what he did.
were you honored that Larry David thought of you for that role or offended or?
I am honored that Larry David thought of me cast me because I am a fellow bald gentleman, and that was a big plot point because he liked me because I was bald forget all the sex offender stuff, and,
Now you're making me feel guilty for wearing a hat, so there
there
you
you
go.
go. Just come on, be loud and proud, man. Um, you got see, we have good shaped heads, that's the thing. We have nothing to be ashamed of.
And we don't have the Larry David halo, but he's he's
Yeah,
he's
what's
rocking it, so,
yeah, I mean, that's he's from a different time. I had a great interaction with Larry David years later. I was with WME, the agency at the time, and we were at a Christmas party, and it was miserable. Like, I get every year, they would throw this party at, what's his face's house, I can't remember his name, I can't be fucking bothered, sorry. Um, but he had a huge party at his mansion and all these tents in the backyard, and I'm just sitting there, like, so uncomfortable. I don't know how to do that kinda thing, that sort of it's a Christmas party, but it's not. It's a Hollywood, it's a networking, it's a weirdo, like, you gotta know how to do it, and I never have perfected that, and Larry saw me from across the room and made a beeline to me, and we just sat there, like, in the corner all night making fun of people, and I was like, "Oh, this is I'm in my own episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm right now. They should be shooting this. It's great." It was so fun.
yeah, the best person to be with in that situation.
It's since then, it's the best party I've ever been to, suddenly.
Yeah, I was curious if you have a lot of, stoners coming up to you all the time between Hot Tub Time Machine and your very memorable role in Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. If you do you have a stoner following?
Well, but I guess, Children's Hospital probably more so. People are always like, "Oh, you guys must get so high before you write that show," and we got so angry, we were like, "It's a lot of work. Writing the show is a lot of work. We can't get high." Um, but, you know, I when somebody comes up to me on the street and says they're a fan or whatever, I immediately profile them. I'm like, "Let me guess," and I can tell what they know me from, and it's just certain, like, the broad strokes are like, the Upper West Side, older gentleman with a NPR tote bag is The Daily Show, and then, and it's funny, like, usually people of color, Harold and Kumar, but younger. Yeah, it's hot tub is a weird one because a lot of times there's a lot more female fans of Hot Tub Time Machine than I thought there would be, and I was yeah, it was really cool. So a lot of women seem to be fans of that show, and they say they say very nice things.
And if it's a small child, it might be Muppets Most Wanted.
Small children are afraid of me. I don't know why. It's facial hair and I'm bald. I don't know. Glasses. I got a lot going on.
Was that a highlight though, getting to work with Muppets?
Yeah, I was in the first one too, um, and I got cut. Yeah, and the producers called me and they were like, "Oh god, Rob, I don't know. I mean, this is never easy. I don't know how to tell you this, but, so we were cutting the movie. It's so long." And I was just like, "You can tell me if you had to cut me, guys. I understand. This is like happens all the time." And they were like, "Yeah. Hey, 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 we cut Billy Crystal too." I was like, "Oh, okay. Alright." But, like, they put me just as to throw me a bone. They're that nice. They were really kind. They threw me a bone and put me in the second one, and it was, fun and also awesome because it was super easy. I was on set for, like, 2 hours.
Did you get to interact with any Muppets, or
Yeah.
you still friends with them, or how's that work?
On the first one, the part that got cut, um, I oh, it was so cool. I talked to them all backstage, and, they all have on-camera personas and backstage personas. Because if the puppets are alive, if the case is open, those puppets are alive. It's not the puppeteer, and you believe it, and, Kermit is like he gets a little blue. He takes some edgy jokes, a lot of innuendo. Um, he was the best one, of course, but, like, I remember going I was the bit was happening on a stage in a theater, in the Muppet Theater, and I was supposed to go out at a certain time, and I'm waiting for my cue, and I do my bit, and then I walk back, and I turn around just to watch the action. I do something really ridiculous on stage, I forget what it was, but then when I walked back, I looked over, and Rolf, the dog, the piano playing dog, I saw him go like this. He was like
He's checking you out?
it was this very subtle thing that's like, "Nah, it's nothing," but I was like, "Oh my god, you are alive. You're a real piano playing dog."
Well, it sounds like you have been cut out of a decent amount of, films. Is there a, is there something that you auditioned for and didn't get that you feel that you still think about as like, "Oh, that was the role that got away?"
I do think I sometimes watch TV and I'll see a show with all of my friends in it, you know? Like, I'll be watching Kroll Show back when it was on, and I'm like, "Guys, what about the kid? What about the kid?" And then my wife has to remind me, like, "You were shooting Children's Hospital and a movie, and just relax. Nobody hates you."
Yeah, I wonder if it's that thing that people just assume that you're too busy because you do a lot.
I mean, that's a thing too, like, I have done that before as well, and luckily, David Wayne always reminded me, like, we don't know that. Maybe they have a day to come," He always was good about, like, shooting for the moon on that show.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask.
Never hurts to ask.
When you look back on all of your, decisions in career, is there something that you said no to at the time that you now kind of think, "Ooh, maybe I should have said yes to that one"?
No, but there is one that I said no to that turned out to be a massive show, and I would probably be doing this interview from, like, a helicopter made out of gold. Um, that was Modern Family, and and they were so cool, and it came at a time where it was between that and Ballers, and I chose HBO over, network TV, and, so I made that choice. I never regretted it, but, you know, HBO pays very well, but it's not paying like whatever that was, ABC.
Yeah, syndication, and yeah, that's like the last, like, great big sitcom syndication story.
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, that was the one." And, yep. Oh, well. Too real. I'm too real, guys.
Yeah, you're too HBO. Which part was it?
I don't well, I already told him, so it was the dad.
Phil,
Yeah, it was for Phil.
yeah, Ty Burrell. Well, he's great,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I told Ty Burrell and I, talked about this afterwards. I feel okay saying that. I nobody likes to know that they were like, there other people were going out for these things as well, but, um, I always try and keep that in mind when I'm doing something, when I'm in a show, like, you're not necessarily everybody's first choice for this, so make yourself their first choice.
Yeah, yeah. What about the flip side? Anything that you said yes to that you now wish you could go back and say no to?
Oh, that's a great question, I've never gotten that question before. Um, well, let's see here. I wish I had s No, 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 no. I was gonna say this one movie, I forget what it's even called, The Winners something, The Winners, Circle, or it's about a girls' basketball team, but, 'cause it was all night shoots, but, I I I would say no to it now because 'cause I've learned, but I got to hang out with Sam Rockwell every night, and we became friends, and I was like, "Well, I can't retroactively say no to that." Um, wait, give me 1 second, I'm gonna think about it.
You've done a lot, so there must be something.
I don't know. If I think of it, I'll call you back.
Okay, good idea. Um, they say that you should never meet your heroes, and I want to know if you have a story that either proves that saying right or wrong.
Oh, no, actually, wrong, I guess, is the answer. I have had such good luck, and maybe it's because it's a goal of mine is, you know, do good things with people who aren't dicks, with people who you can potentially fall in love with, and so I've been very, very lucky. I did do 2 movies and a couple episodes of television with Chevy Chase, and, Chevy's tricky.
Yeah, he's got a reputation.
He's tricky, but, we got along very well. We had dinner a couple times. Um, I mean, he put his finger in, in Clark Duke's potatoes, and when we were at dinner, he went, "How was that?" I was like, "Wow, okay, that's the Chevy Chase that I idolize right there." But yeah, even Chevy, I mean, I know he can be tricky, but I love them, and, you know, there's a lot of people that could potentially be a little bit of a handful that I enjoyed, but I'm a terrible judge of character.
The last question that I like to ask is there a story or memory from your career that makes you laugh now, but really was not funny when it happened?
Oh my god, there's so many. It's almost my every interaction with a celebrity I admire, outside of the workplace. Like, I have left a wake of confused, celebrities in my path. I cannot say the right thing when I really feel like for some reason, I work myself up, and I'm like, "Well, go ahead, come on, you're in the same club." You can say how much you admire him, and, I would do something stupid, and I would get a weird look and "Oh, thank you." Like, once Stephen King was on The Daily Show. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, literally I've read all his books. I'm a completist, and I think he's a fantastic writer, and he was on the show, and I came up to him, he actually came up to me and said, "Hey, I hear you're from Boston," he's from Maine. He goes, "I'm from Maine." I was like, "Yeah, no shit." But, we were talking for maybe about 30 seconds. It was going great, and I said, "Well, this is a real thrill. I'm your biggest fan," which is the worst thing to say to Stephen King because he wrote a best-selling novel and a great movie was made about it, Misery, where that was the whole it sounds like I'm quoting like I'm going, "I'm your biggest fan, wink," and, uh, and he gets all weird, he gets not even weird, he gets disappointed, and he goes, "Yeah, well, don't cut my foot off, okay?" I was like, "Oh, blew it again. Oh, yeah." George Clooney, oh, there's so many of them
What'd you tell George Clooney?
that I didn't wanna go out drinking with him. I was like, "What are you doing?" And I just met him at the Daily Show again, and he was like, "I'm going out drinking, wanna come?" And I was like, I gotta, no, my wife, I have a, like, dinner," um, and then 10 minutes, and he's like, "Okay." And 10 minutes later, I'm like, what have I done? I could be in Italy right now."
You would be, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here with me instead of in Italy with George Clooney. But all 8 episodes of the Audacity are available to stream now on AMC Plus. Rob Corddry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much again to Rob Corddry. I love hearing all those old Daily Show stories. And please do check out The Audacity if you haven't seen it. It's a really good show that, as I and Rob agree, not enough people have seen. So I hope that everybody checks it out. If you are enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to us on YouTube at the Obsessed channel. You can see all of our episodes there. You could leave us comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can also follow us at Beast Obsessed on Instagram and check out our content there as well. And listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. We want to hear what you think about the show. And thank you to our producer, Rachel Passer, and we'll be back with an all-new episode of Obsessed the Podcast very soon.